Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, and this is episode 64B, the answer portion to my What Is It series. Welcome aboard. First of all, let me say thank you to all you people out there that just pushed me over the 250,000 mark as far as subscribing. This is 5 years old. It was my 100,000th plaque from the great YouTube. So let's take a look at the crazy inventions that I showed you last time. Thank you to the anonymous donor that sent this to me some time ago. Most people knew what this was. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's a bell. It's aluminum, of course. And it is a mechanical fire alarm, and it senses heat, not smoke. It's not a smoke alarm like the more modern type here that probably would be set off far before this would go off. This, of course, will go off when you burn the toast. But this one has a fuse on it, and this particular one would go off at 136 degrees. I understand that they sold different temperature ranges. Also that these were sold in different diameters. This is one of the larger ones that would be louder. And the man that gave this to me said he bought a house, I forgot where he lived, and when he went in the basement, it was up between the floor joists and had been there since probably the 60s. And I will probably do a video on how it works. That is, I will set it off with heat. I'm not going to do that now. But when you turn it over, I had this covered up in the other video. This one has a UL label on it from Canada, so I don't know if it was made in Canada, but you can see it's pretty sturdily built. This is all die cast, and of course there's a spring in here, and it has been wound by a long dead man. And you know, I was pondering that thought, that we have saved in this mechanism here some of the potential energy of a man that is long gone. Isn't that kind of a mysterious thought? And there's the model number, 25 feet. I don't know what that means. I think in the patents it said 95 decibels, and there's several patents for this that I will be showing you here momentarily. So when the temperature reaches 135 degrees Fahrenheit, this little metal part in the middle here, which is a very low melting temperature metal, it's a alloy, I think it contains bismuth, that will disintegrate like on a sprinkler system and release these two little items here, and it will go off. And at a spring round, that must be quite a large spring in here, and I think it will sound for about 3 or 4 minutes before it winds down. That is, if it still works and the spring is still strong after 50 or 60 years. One other viewer said that, oh, I got a bunch of those in my house. They've been there forever. And like I said, they sold them in a decorator model that would look okay on a living room wall. But I was also told that these were sold and marketed by a crazy scheme, like they sell Tupperware or Avon, you know, where they have a party and people come to the house and somebody bakes Toll House cookies, you know, and they all sit around daintily, and somebody gets stuck into buying a couple of these for his house because his friend invited him over, you know, and you can't turn a friend down. That's how all of those gimmicky parties worked. You know, how are you going to say no to a neighbor? You're going to have to buy some item, whatever he's selling. Sometimes it's worthless, sometimes it's good. All right, that's enough on this and how it works, and I'm going to show you the patents. There were 2 or more patents, and this one is 1960 by E.C. Pratt, and that apparently is not the working model. It appears to be quite different in appearance than the one I'm going to show you now, and I'll put more copies of these at the end of this video so as still pictures so you can study them or look it up on Google Patents, because there's quite a bit of legalese here that a fellow could read if he had a notion. And here's the later patent, 1961, when I was a senior. Beautiful drawings. Just look at the lettering. I just love that. And there are 2 pages. By the way, there's a flag telling you that it's on, I guess, and I forgot to show you that, but that clips onto the back of the alarm. I know I'm talking too much on this, but there's a second page also of how it works. Remember that patent drawings are not always the same as the production model. Matter of fact, they usually are quite different. Question for you. Put it down in the comments. Which one would wake you up from a deep sleep sooner? This one or this one? That is, if someone hadn't taken the battery out and put it in their boombox. And the next item is a KD 2078 universal overhead valve spring compressor. Most people knew what this was. And you know, KD tools all have a similar appearance. Do you remember years ago if you went into an auto store, there would be a revolving rack with KD tools? All fairly inexpensive, specialized tools to help you get through a job. And the whole idea with this is that it would allow you to take the spring and the keeper off of the engine valves, overhead valve engine, without taking the head off of the engine. And usually you put some compressed air in there through the spark plug hole so that the valve couldn't drop down in there. And I'm told that this is not obsolete by any means, that somebody is probably using one of these right this minute as I speak. But there are some interesting patents on this. Notice that there's 2 patents. One is a very small number, the other one a much larger number. Well, what does that mean? Let me show you. Funny you should ask. I don't see where this has much to do with a valve spring compressor, but clear back in 1879, old Mr. Thurman had a patent, and it apparently had never run out, and it involved the what went around the horse's neck. The horse's neck went through here, and these are the carriage shafts. And I'm not sure just how this applies, but you can study that if you're in the mood. I'm not. And here's the other patent from 1970 that actually shows you Mr. Schultz's valve spring compressing tool. It's quite intricate, isn't it? And there in this picture is really the good one that shows a valve that's still in the engine being compressed, the spring being compressed, and then the little, you've all had these apart, then those little keepers here can be taken out and the valve spring replaced, or if it's a broken spring, or if the valve guides have to be replaced, I guess those could be changed. So that's a pretty interesting item, especially as it applies to these 2 patents. And for those of you that have an appreciative eye, this is the hood ornament or mascot or radiator cap from an old DeSoto car, probably in the 30s, I think about 1931, a couple guys said. And a DeSoto car was based, well, the name came from Hernando de Soto, who was a conquistador and Spanish explorer that discovered many things in America and in South America and Central America. I'll show you a picture of him in just a second, but that's a highly stylized and beautiful picture, or I should say sculpture of him. Here is the picture of Hernando, and I believe, if I remember correctly, that he had a little tavern down in Miami that he called the Hideaway. Rim shot, please. Alright, in a very recent video of mine, number 60, this and that, if you go to the, what is it here, the 21-minute mark, I go to the Gilmore Museum and show a lot of mascots. So if you like those and you didn't see that video, be sure and check it out. I've always had an interest in hood ornaments because they were quite a popular thing when I was a boy. Not as ornate as this, but there were beautiful ones on Nash's and Packard's and so on. But eventually they decided they were too dangerous and this would impale somebody, of course, and kill them. Not that the 3-ton vehicle wouldn't have done that anyway. But later on, as in the case of this Dodge Ram, there was a spring here. Now I've overcome that with a little tube I put on there, but there was a spring that would allow this to bend over should someone get struck by the vehicle. Still one of my favorites. But I think my favorite of all times was the Mack Bulldog. Did you like that? For you old men like me, you may remember that Groucho Marx had a radio and TV show called You Bet Your Life, and his sponsor was DeSoto Automobiles, and every year DeSoto would give him a new car because they were the sponsor. But later on I found something I thought was ridiculous. He had to give them the old car back, and then they would give him, you know, a 1959, but the 58 had to go back to a dealer someplace and be resold. I thought, you cheap son of a guns. And finally, the extra credit, and I was shocked, I mean absolutely shocked, at how many people knew that this was Arnold Stang, comedian and personality from the 50s and 60s. And I had forgotten that later he was the spokesman for Chunky candy bars. What a chunk of chocolate, remember that? That was a good candy bar too. I liked those when I was a kid, but it was an awful small bar for 5 cents. Quite a neat character, and he had a funny voice as well. And of course he is long gone. Well, that completes this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. This is Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Say, be sure and watch this video of mine. It just reached 250,000 viewers, and this is January 25th, 2021. And in this video I show you how to drill a square hole, or I should say, make a square hole.